Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Illumineers Quest podcast, where we talk everything Lorcana, not just the newly announced co-op game for Set 4. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jacob.
Thanks for coming on this journey with us. Okay, today's kind of a personal, news / prep show for Set Championships. This is going live the Monday before the first weekend of Set Championships, and that is honestly all I can think of. And I literally mean that. I eat, breathe, and sleep play lines, deck building, deck decisions, like you name it. That I'm so ready and so ingrained in winning a Stitch card that's what's on my mind.
I'm more casual than Zach on the spectrum, but it's still what I think about in Lorcana.
I just the competitive juices have definitely started flowing. I know we've talked about the Rocky training montage in the past, and we've talked about getting ready. And, this being the first real competitive thing that we're going to do. Well, I thought it was bad before. It's bad now.
We should post a video to our YouTube channel, you running and the Rocky music.
Well, that would have worked last weekend when I ran a race, but we missed that opportunity.
We'll do it we'll figure it out.
I'm not going to run and it's starting to get warm here now. I'm not going to run in sweats and a hoodie like Rocky would and just sweat.
Let's go to Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's probably still cold there. Okay. Anyways, yes, this is a what's going on Set Championships week as we prepare for Set Championships, and hopefully give some people some tips, some tidbits. I would definitely recommend you go back and listen to the R&B interview if you haven't yet. That came out last week because he was super insightful and helped a lot, and I've been taking a lot of those tips through my thinking process on what's going on since then. So I would imagine that would be some help too. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into going, and then we can talk all the Set Championship stuff and even a little bit more than that. So with that said, as always, thanks everyone for following. And we'll make it a quick one this time. If you are, want to support the podcast, the easiest way to do so is to use our TCG Player affiliate link in the description box below and buy any of your singles through that link, and it helps us support the podcast. You can follow us on YouTube, any major podcast network, or our X/Twitter account at LorcanaPod, and follow along for our Set Championship journey, because I will definitely be tweeting about what's going on. Okay, with that said, card of the week. There's a lot. I know there's a lot of options, and we've been going back and forth between sets on older sets to re-highlight new cards that are important. Although I think I have to just pick the doozy from this set, which is Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood.
Sure.
We talked about it in the tier list episode that I don't think is live yet, actually. But spoiler
Get excited
alert!
For that one.
Spoiler alert! There's a really fun legendary tier list coming out where we talk a lot about Robin Hood, and as I'm sure you can imagine, he's pretty high on it. But I think Robin Hood just gives you so much flexibility. He gives you a lot of challenge potential. The 6 HP or willpower that he has is enormous for a 5 cost, especially if you're shifting him on 3. That's a huge body to have to worry about. So that's really, really enticing from that regard. And then the draw a card whenever he's banished in a challenge. I think people are getting better at working around that and using spells to finish him off. But Maui still comes in every once in a while and challenges him, or swings in and takes him out. And honestly, if they're going to waste their entire turn on a Maui and I get a card and then, have an easy spell to get rid of Maui, I'm usually pretty okay with that now. So Robin Hood is definitely one of the best ones in the game at the moment. The one caveat I will say that is you have to be very cautious on playing around Medusas, because Robin Hood and Beast Tragic Hero are the 2 best targets that you can take out with them out of Medusa and Ruby. And so if you're playing a Ruby deck, you definitely want to shift them on 3 to give yourself a couple turns before the Medusa comes out. And then after 6 ink, when your opponent's there, you definitely want to try to play some guessing games with your opponent to try to put out some semi-enticing targets to get them to the Medusa them. So then the next turn you can play your Robin Hood. But yeah, Robin Hood's a fantastic one. I also chose him because I told you this right before we started, but I've opened, I think 6 packs recently, and I got 2 Robin Hoods from those 6 packs.
Yeah, so I've had better luck of hitting him off retail products than booster boxes, than hobby products.
Same, actually.
I've only opened 2 retail products, and I pulled a Robin Hood from each. and it seems like his retail pull rate.
That's better for me too. I pulled 2 initially from like all the boxes I opened, and then I've pulled 2 from the 6 boosters I've opened from League and like finding random ones at Target recently. So I don't know. I mean, that's obviously just a weird coincidence, but I'll take it because I needed them.
Yeah.
So, so Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood. I assume if you're a Steel player, you're very familiar and you're most likely playing him. But he's a doozy for sure.
100%.
Okay. So news, what's on our mind, League recap, all of the above that kind of falls into the main topic and set championships of today. The one thing I want to note is I will be in Atlanta. I got off the wait list. I didn't make the first wave, but I did get off the wait list, and I will be in Atlanta. Jake did not, unfortunately, but you're still planning on going to the Fort Worth one.
Whenever that gets reannounced.
Whenever, we have the opportunity to get to those. Hopefully we'll both get tickets for Fort Worth, but I will be in Atlanta. So if you, I don't know exactly how this is going to work or how much time we're going to have to like meet people or like talk to people, but I don't know. I'm like thinking through like an Illumineers Quest like T-shirt or something. So it's like, hey, this is me. If you want to, come say hi, then
we can get a cricket for that, right?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure something out. I was on Breezy's stream that one time, so like people have like, I don't know, a good amount of people that watch him have seen my face, but I don't know how many like crossover listeners we have. But anyways, yeah.
Hopefully we do. Watch Breezy.
Yeah, if you don't watch Why Breezy on Twitch/YouTube/Twitter, you should, because he's fantastic. Yeah, so I'll be in Atlanta, and I'm prepping. I just completely
That's fine.
mumbled. Prepping for set championships and for Atlanta, because Atlanta still uses only Chapter 3 cards. You know, that's the one challenge that's not going to use Chapter 4, and so it's not going to be under the current meta. So I'm getting ready for all of that and all of the above, and yeah. So
I mean, who knows? I'm interested to see. I mean, obviously we'll see how they run it competitively, these events, Lorcana Challenge, but I want to see like what else is kind of going on in like around it, like around the competition.
I think there are going to be vendor booths. I think we're going to have some other stuff going on there.
I want to see what else is going on.
It's just going to be such a long day that first day.
Yeah.
That I don't know how much time there's going to be like in between rounds, and how like if there's going to be any downtime and how that's all going to look. Because it's like 10, it starts at 10 and then you go 9 rounds at 40 minutes apiece with a little bit of time in between rounds. Like that very well could go until like 7 or 8 at night.
I mean, Atlanta's the first one, no?
Yeah.
So, I mean, first of all, that's pretty historic, I think.
I said 9 rounds. I'm sure there's more than 9 rounds now because of the expanded capacity.
Increase.
So there's very well more than 9 Swiss rounds. So yeah, I don't know if there's going to be more than that. So I don't know when we'll be able to like mingle or whatever, but we'll try to figure it out. But yeah, first one.
I mean, that's historic.
That was honestly, it was a playing factor into me going to that one, because the Fort Worth one is a lot closer to where we are, and so it was like, well, I could just wait for the Fort Worth one, but there's no guarantee you get a ticket to that one either at this given stage, and so definitely wanted to get in where I could, and then it being the first one, I was like, I definitely have to go because it's the first one. So I'm going to Atlanta to do the Disney Lorcana Challenge event.
Represent Illumineers Quest, dude. Not the product.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or we could do both. I don't know, maybe because the Illumineers Quest product will be out by then, because that's a week after the set releases, and so they'll both be out. But anyways, that's obviously what's on our mind. What's on my mind.
Maybe you can start up a meetup where they can play Illumineers Quest with Illumineers Quest.
If there's time, I'm going to figure something out. Again, with 10 or 11 rounds of
No,
Swiss,
I agree with you. Who knows?
We could be up till midnight.
The first challenge is going to be chaotic.
Especially for me, because I've never been to one.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be just a learning experience for me. But yeah, it'll be fun for sure. But yeah, that's the set championships are the stepping stone to that. But sorry, I just hogged all the news section. So like, what are you thinking? I know we're going into set championships, and this is the week before the weekend that it opens, and this goes live the week that it goes open. So
no, so I mean, it basically has to do with our main topic here. But I have had to like completely change my deck. I have been a Ruby Amethyst lifer,
Yeah.
and just for me, it wasn't winning as many games as it used to.
It's very intricate to play. Like there are very small decisions that have big impacts, and it's extremely hard. So I get it.
So I switched over to Tempo, EA Tempo.
And that's your final like that's what you're playing for sure.
For set championships, yeah. That's what I'm going in with.
Okay, I guess that's kind of we're still news what's on our mind, but
yeah,
we're also kind of getting into the
That's been literally what's on my mind for Lorcana, because I've been having to completely switch all my strategic thinking to this new deck. So literally what's on my mind with Lorcana right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I wish I could like announce what I'm playing, but honestly, I really hate to say this, but I think it's going to be a game time decision. I was like hard Sapphire Steel for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then with all of like the aggro meta that came out real quick, there was, like the Zach Bivens deck that was doing really well. And there was a couple other, like Mufasa type decks. Mufasa's still pretty relevant. And then you've obviously got, like your tempo deck that you're talking about and you're playing, and I just I didn't feel as comfortable on the aggro side with Sapphire Steel, and so then I started playing Steel Song to try to do with that, but then it's got its own problems of its own, and so I feel I'm to the place now where I feel comfortable on them both, but I don't have a final decision at what I'm playing, which is I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, honestly. I think it's probably a bad thing. I think you probably need to pick and like be very like getting into the mindset of like what you're playing. But
no, I think it's safe to say like that. I mean, some people just have a harder time deciding. Like for me, I have to make a decision. Like it's hard for me to flip flop between 2 decks or more than 2 decks. So just for me, it works a lot better. So it's really hard for me to even think about trying to shuffle between multiple decks.
No, and I think for a lot of people that is the way to go. I think if you especially if you're not ingrained in it daily and like constantly, testing or trying or playing or tweaking or whatever, then you're just not going to have the familiarity with the deck that you're going to bring to be as successful as you can. I think it's much more important, and this isn't necessarily coming just for me, but again, a lot of the pros that I follow and look up to when it comes to this space, they all are saying the same thing. Like it's much better to bring a little bit inferior deck in favor of a lot superior comfortability and play with that deck. And so I think in general, if you're in a boat where you don't necessarily know what you want to play, again, we're a couple days out from the first weekend and 2 weeks out from the second weekend, then make a decision and just stick to it and get really comfortable with that decision.
I think that's the number one thing. Comfortability is huge, I think, because for me, I deal with like anxiety, like normal anxiety, and minimalizing that as much as possible, like especially like if I go to a Lorcana challenge, like minimalizing that anxiety is the best. So if that's the deck you're playing, if you're comfortable with it, if it's anything like that, I think is key.
It's funny you say that, because this morning I was thinking about that, and like I was getting anxious thinking about being there, and we're not even close to it happening yet. So anyways, yeah, I think that again, the tip, I guess, fun set championship / Disney Lorcana tip or Lorcana challenge tip and trick is like make a decision and don't follow my play and not have a decision made. Again, I think.
But I'll also say if you really don't like your decision, then make a new one. But
I wouldn't even say make a new one. I think if you are comfortable with it, but you're not performing well, then tweak what you're doing. Don't completely change it.
But I'm saying, like, if it's not going well at all, then pull back.
Yeah, I mean that it could be. That's, I mean, obviously if you get to the place where you're not comfortable with it anymore, which I think if you're continuously losing, then you're going to be in a place where you're not comfortable with it. But yeah, I think the I mean, this is going to be the most stringent environment. There's been a lot of, I would say, debate going back and forth on the socials about like enforcing rules and like warnings for players for not like interacting with cards properly, or not inking properly, or not discussing things properly, or choosing or like ward targets. Like the biggest thing that's been blowing up, I don't know if you've seen it or not, has been like a fictitious scenario where somebody plays a Let It Go on Cogsworth, And obviously you can't because Cogworth has ward. And so it's like, well, what do you do at that point? Do you make them choose a different target? And if the only other target on the board is their own card, then they have to let it go on their own card. Do you call a judge? Do you how do you interact with all this? And so the stakes are the highest they've ever been. And so the need to be very crisp with your decision making and very crisp with the way that you're dealing with your cards and you're interacting with your board is very key and very important. And so, getting all of that in line and thinking through all the proper mechanics when it comes to playing the game too, getting your lore off of locations, getting your lore off of your your passive lore, if you get that in any way, it's all important to just be very cognizant about the way that you're heading into the matches.
And to play off of that, I would think my biggest tip, because I've played in 2 tournaments now, I believe. I think the biggest thing that I took away from my first few rounds was take your time, I think. Now, of course, there's a timer, so you have to be cognizant of that. But I think it is important to take your time, because if you're rushing, then that anxiety is building.
Don't make a bad decision because you're going too fast.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to say that. Is I find myself making a snap decision and then 2 seconds later saying, oh my God, that was a terrible decision. Just take a couple more seconds, take another 30 seconds and really think through if you can get punished by doing X, Y, or Z.
My number one question I bring up to myself when I'm playing a card is, okay, what's my opponent's reaction? That's the number one question I ask myself.
That's a perfect question.
That's the perfect, that's the first layer of is this a good decision?
Yeah. Yeah, and to be quite honest, I don't do as good a job of that. I sometimes get tunnel visioned on just my cards and think what's the best play that I can make. But in order to do that, you have to think about, to your point, what your opponent's going to do. And so what's the best thing that I can do? And then is my opponent going to have an easy counter to that? And sometimes I get, again, tunnel vision and don't think all the way through that.
And that's fair because, that happens to me too. I'm just saying, I think to get out of that, my first wave of thought is, what's my opponent's reaction to this?
Yeah, no, and again, that's a very, very smart decision to be making. And one thing I will throw in on that I recently, tip that I recently picked up from watching a DeCandio stream who just won the largest online tournament ever is when you're mulliganing, you have to be very specific in the way that you mulligan for your opponent. That, I've started to get better at that, but I'm still not quite there yet. And what your opponent's playing. But even more importantly, if there's a card that you don't necessarily want in your opening hand, but you don't want it later on down the road, the perfect example I can give on this one is Benja, for instance. If I'm playing you, who's playing tempo, who doesn't have any items, Benja is only good against items, right? And so I don't want Benja down the road. So just keep him in your hand for ink and just use that as a good ink target versus pitching him away, maybe getting a bunch of uninkables, unluckily, and then not knowing what to do. Get rid of your cards that aren't good in the matchup that you're in early so that all of the later game are cards that are going to be more impactful. That was really helpful for me too when thinking about going through the mulligans.
So I have a question for you actually. So before your matches at State Championships and Challenge, do you have to state your ink?
How much you have?
No, before the game starts, do you state what 2 inks you're playing?
Oh no, I don't. So
you don't see the type of deck you're playing. Obviously,
I don't think so. No, in the Lorcana Challenge, you definitely have to submit a deck list. So you have to go into their portal and submit the cards you're playing.
Yeah. And
then stick to that list. The set championships are going to vary between if your local set requires that or not. I think some of ours are. I think some of them aren't. I'm not super familiar with all of the places around here that are doing them, but it's very dependent on that. But no, I think aside from you submitting your deck list, I don't think your opponent has to tell you ahead of time. But obviously, if you do a little peeking, on when you're playing your first round, then you can get a quick deal of what everybody else is playing.
Sneaky Zach.
No, I told my opponent, when the last tournament that I played that I went, or I guess I should say that I went to, if my opponent asked me what I was playing, I told him. There was 2 guys there's one guy that said you'll just have to find out, which again is fine. If he wants to play it, and he wasn't mean about it. It was it's whatever. You have that right. And then there was one guy that like lied about it on purpose to try to like throw me off, which that one like kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I mean, again, it's a competitive environment. If you want to do it. But I guess how do you want to look coming out on the other side? But anyways, yeah. So I don't know. I said what the two ones I'm considering are Steel Song and Sapphire Steel.
I don't know. That was a while ago. If you did,
I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'll jump to that real quick. Sapphire Steel again was what I was playing for most of the majority of the last month, but I just feel like most of the aggro stuff I was having a big trouble with. So I started to rethink that one a little bit, and then I started playing. Yeah, I started playing Steel Song to deal with that. However, it probably favors a little bit more towards the aggro side and not as much the control / late game mid range side. And so it's it's like game time decision at like what's everybody else playing?
Yeah.
When you go to that opening day and like what is all the other players you're familiar with and what are they running? And maybe I try to like play into the meta. Like if there's a bunch of aggro stuff, I play Steel Song, and if there's more Dime.
I think what you have to do is just when am I in everything scenario, what am I the best with? I think that's what you have to go.
And I know, and trust me, that's what I'm struggling with. I think like if you were to tell me like what I was better on, it would be Sapphire Steel for sure.
I agree.
But I just think there's like the aggro matchup scares me to death. Like it's just like if you are playing Emerald and you don't.
So then we're going into what's most versatile.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this too. Here's another tip I've picked up on watching Twitch streams and listening to some of the pros podcasts and things like that. You're probably not going to get a deck that is favorable in every matchup, especially this meta, which I think is good, right? That means it's a really healthy meta.
Healthy.
I will say I am more happy with this meta now and grateful that this is the meta going into SEP championships than any other meta there's been.
Could you imagine if challenge happened in chapter 2?
It would be. It would just. I would not. I honestly like. I would consider not going because I don't want to go play 7 Ruby Amethyst mirror matches. Like I just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah. I think Sapphire Steel is the more comfortable one, but yeah. I mean, I could go on and on and on about it. Oh no, the point I was trying to make on the pros and the some of the stuff that I've seen them go around and kind of the way that they think through some of these matchups is you're not going to beat every single one of them. And so, you have to play a little bit of an edgy deck. And what I mean by that is like, you kind of swing for the fences on some of the things. It's like, if I, get great pairings into these 4 decks, I'm going to hit home runs and I'm going to be great. Mm-hmm. If I get this one matchup that I don't want to see, I'm probably going to lose, but that's okay because it's just this one matchup and I am really good against everything else. And so I feel like that's kind of the Sapphire Steel side for me. Again, I really wish I could just make a decision. I started logging all my games. I think you and I have talked about this. I don't think I've said it on the podcast yet. I might have did when I talked to R&B, but I literally like every game I play, I say what the deck I played is, if I went first or second, what my opponent played, and kind of the archetype, if it was an aggro deck, if it was mid-range, if it was control or whatever, so that I can see my performance against all of those different scenarios and see where my weaknesses are. Mm-hmm. And that's why I switched to Steel Song for the past week or so to try to learn that one pretty quick, is because mid-range and control, I was probably like 65% win rate, but on aggro, it was like 30. So I was like, if I find an aggro matchup, I'm in trouble. Like I'm not winning anything. And now I'm doing that in Steel Song, and I win like 80% of my aggro matches. Control, I'm winning like 20% of my matches, and mid-range, it's about 50-50. And so I don't know.
My gut is telling you Sapphire Steel.
That's where I'm leaning to, but I just don't know. I guess we also got to say where we're playing and how many we're playing, because you're not playing near as many as I am.
I'm playing. So set championships, I'm playing 2.
Yeah, 2 set championships on the 21st and 27th.
But if I win one or get top 4, probably top 2, top 4 in one, I might back out of the other.
I'm only doing that if I win. If I win, I'm probably done.
If I win, I'm for sure done.
If you get top 4, you still got to try the other one for the mat.
But that's taking a promo away from somebody.
It's fine. It's not like if you don't go, then the other people that got top 4 aren't going to go do that to everybody else too.
I understand that, but I mean, I want to make a good moral decision for myself, so I'll feel good in the morning.
Well, that's fair.
Tell what you're going to do.
I'm signed up for 4. But that's not necessarily because I'm trying to get a play set. That's more because I don't have confidence in myself to get a mat.
I think by the end of said championships, you will have a mat that says champion on it.
Well, I appreciate the sentiment there. I wish I had that kind of confidence in myself right now. You know, I've had a lot of success the last couple weeks. Like, my win rate has definitely started to increase. I watched a lot of the online streams for the online events that have been going on and have like really tried to like listen to the mindset of the players to like really understand their thought processes and why they're making certain decisions. And I feel like my decision making has gone up a lot. And that's honestly what's the most important. There's probably 12 games that I've logged that are like, I drew 3 A Whole New Worlds in the first 10 cards. Like, what am I going to do about that?
Yeah.
You know, that's going to happen. Like, I understand I'm not trying to win every game, but what I'm trying to do is mitigate the risks that I have when things like that come up. And I feel like I'm getting to a place where I'm making a lot better decisions. And so...
That's key. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I would also highly recommend that. If you're wanting to be on the competitive side of this and you're wanting to be really competitive come set championship time, DeCandio on Twitch / Twitter X is one of the most fantastic people as far as like thought processes and learning and understanding the game. Zepha, we've talked about a ton. Shout out Zepha. You have to go watch his YouTube channels and his deck builds and his Twitch streams and watch him playing as well, because he does a fantastic job on, again, talking you through his plays and his mindset and why he's making the decisions. I would also say Skylar Dunce, I think is his name right. He goes by Sky1231 or 131313 on Twitch. Another fantastic player, really does a great job of explaining all this stuff out. I've learned a lot from them, and so if you want to, you know, get some like last minute kind of film sessions in before set championships, that's kind of where I would focus my time.
Well, that's great. I mean, luckily, Lorcana just overall has a great community.
Yeah.
So there's lots of good avenues to go down for that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I will say too, there's tons of content, there's tons of help. You know, the local community has been great for just about everybody. I've seen a few bad apples here and there online, but in general, it's been fantastic. You know, I think that this weekend's probably going to be, or these weekends are probably going to be a little bit more cutthroat and maybe not quite as nice. But I can't tell you how thankful I am that we don't have Zach Bivens in our local scene. Like, imagine that. Like, you know, I was in the conversation with R&B. I don't think you've had a chance to listen yet. He lives in the area with DeCandio, and he has to go against DeCandio in his set championship. Like, imagine like you being the second best player in your local scene, but you're the second best player because the best player is the best player in the world. Yeah. Like, imagine like that would not be fun to have to deal with.
I mean, you can't do anything against that, right?
I mean, you can move. You can move, I suppose, but that's not very realistic for most people. So, no, I don't think there's a lot you can do. But again, get better, and I think in a lot of degrees that helps you out. You know, again, I think positively and negatively, 2 of the top probably 4 players in our local scene have moved on to Star Wars, which, you know, come set championship time, I'm not going to be like super happy about it, because 1, they elevated my play a ton since the beginning.
Both of them.
Like, I've gotten so much better because of them. And then 2, I don't feel like I'm going to be beating the best necessarily. I mean, you're obviously going to have to, if you do win, you're going to have to beat a lot of other good players too. It's not like everybody else are chumps by any means. There are a lot of good players. But those 2 being gone, it just feels very weird in our local scene going into the weekend.
I mean, it's different just because, I mean, I don't, like, those were, getting into Lorcana, those were like the 2 like grand masters, you know? One
got him out at Gen Con. Like, that's, you know, that's how I guess solid of a player he was. You know, and again, I think were those top 8 mats at Gen Con? I'm pretty sure it was, right?
Yep.
So that gives you an idea of who we were playing with. And that, I guess at that point, if he was still playing, we would have had a DeCandio in our
if he
league.
if he was still playing to this point, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, if you do live with DeCandio or Zach Bivens or Zephyr, any of those guys, and you're playing in their set championships, like, I'm sorry.
GG's.
I'm sorry, but I've thought about that a lot. Like, if I get if the dice just don't roll my way at Atlanta, and I sit down and across the table from me sits down Zach Bivens, I'm gonna be like, congrats on the win. Tell me teach me as we go here.
I will forfeit this if you teach me.
No, I'm not gonna forfeit. I'm not gonna forfeit. But at the end of the game, I'm 100% saying, what did I do wrong? How did you punish me? To make sure that like my mind lines up with his, so that I can learn from either the mistakes or if the cards just didn't go my way and he says that, then great. But if you do, have better players in your area, like seriously, like learn from them. And
100%. I mean, that's been the biggest thing for you and me.
Absolutely. Yeah, so set championships this week and next weekend. I think the episodes coming out are going to be not fillers, but we talked about another tier list. I think the next one we're going to record is probably after the set championships have concluded, and then we'll give you a recap at how everything went.
Yeah. Also, follow us on X/Twitter. So I'm sure we'll give you
we'll give you
more
updates.
immediate updates.
We'll give you updates for how Jake and I both do on our placements and on the different ones. So you're playing the first Sunday, the first weekend Sunday, and the second weekend Saturday. Mm-hmm. I'm playing Saturday, Sunday. If maybe if I get a champion mat, then I'm definitely not playing in the last one because I haven't paid for that one yet. That one's like a pay the day of. But the Saturday and the second weekend I've already paid for, and so I'll probably go play just because I don't want to like lose my money. But yeah, that's again, I'm not super confident. Want to give myself as many opportunities to get the card /mat as I can, and so yeah, that's what we're doing.
What would you be happy with?
I'll be happy with a card. I am going for a mat.
So let me say it. What would you be satisfied with?
I'll be satisfied with the card.
You'd be satisfied
if I get a card, I'll be happy because again, like this is our first time doing this. Like we've done a couple tournaments, like you said. Like we've played in a few local events. Definitely nothing as big as this. The first one has been capped at 36 and it's already full. The second one has I think 18 signed up right now, which is again bigger than any of them we've done. The third one has 15, and the fourth one that I'm doing that Jake's not going to, I think has 20 as well. And so like these are by far the biggest events.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with a card. I've put so much time and effort these past couple weeks into again like really getting to a deeper level of knowledge in the game and really like changing my mindset and the way that I think and process the information during the games that I just want to feel like that that effort didn't go to waste, I guess, if that makes sense. And so obviously a mat's the ultimate goal, but we'll see if we can get there or not.
All right. I mean, there's our goals. There's all of our thoughts and our goals.
Yeah, I mean, championship week, if you want to be uber competitive, study, follow some of the pros, watch their streams, watch their, follow their content.
Take their word over us.
But yeah, I think it's gonna be a hectic 2 weeks. It's gonna be a lot of Lorcana because I think we're getting ready to go play after this. I think we're gonna play next week, before like the championships go live as well. So just getting in as many games as we possibly can.
That's another tip. Is if you have friends that are in the Lorcana, play.
Yeah, you have to get as many reps in as you can to again get better mulligans, get better play lines, get your tempo down correct and everything and all the above. So. Yeah, I guess that's all I've got. I'll stop rambling. But this, like we said, this is going to kind of be a quick update one this week as we get ready for the set championships, and we'll give everybody an update once they're done.
All right, man. Good luck to you.
Good luck to everyone listening. If you are competing in your set championships and you're going to your locals, good luck to everyone.
Best of luck.
Yeah, if you're doing well, let us know. Let us know your placements. Let us know how you do on all of your endeavors and your trials as well. We are genuinely interested and want to know how everybody else does as well. And
Absolutely.
So please let us know, and we'll all keep each other updated. So thanks again for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye, guys.